We're on? Okay. Call the meeting to order at 3 p.m. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll establish a quorum. Welcome, Chip. And you can start with the consent agenda.
Okay, the consent agenda with the minutes and the copies of the credit card statements. Any questions, edits?
None from me.
None for me either.
We just need a motion to approve consent
I will
agenda.
make a motion to approve the consent agenda and the credit card statements.
And I second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Moving on to, do we have any public comments? All right,
The thing I forgot to put on the agenda, but which is not that, it's okay to still do it, and that's a liaison report, so if you'll go to the liaison report.
anybody want to give a liaison report
You
from
wanna
the town, the school?
Let's see, the last meeting was rather uneventful for the town. That meeting was, 2 weeks ago, 12 days ago now. So I think there was things that were taken off the agenda, so it was really very, other than the swearing in of a new officer, it was rather uneventful, so maybe this Thursday will be, I think, a few more things on the agenda.
All right, well, the school, I have a couple more updates than that. The first thing we'll get out of the way, the whole mask conversation. Part of that protocol that went out that's extremely difficult to understand, but once you delve into it, basically if the county went red for more than 2 weeks, then all of the schools were going to be required to be masked up 100% of the time. So we are at that point. So all schools, all students are currently masked. And my guess is that that's going to continue when they get back from break, because they always see an uptick in COVID cases when they come back from all of these breaks. Something else that we had kind of been discussing is kind of just morale. I think everybody knows teachers they've just been through it, right, these last couple of years. And for some reason, this fall just really hit everybody hard. I don't know if it's kind of the third year that we're dealing with this. But the school board meetings have kind of turned into a very negative atmosphere. A lot of people coming and saying a lot of negative comments. Most of them are people who are opposed to their children wearing masks. And so we just want to try to figure out a way to kind of show the school and the teachers some love. And so we've been kind of trying to come up with some sort of ideas. Do we do yard signs, that say we love Avon schools? But my point being, if you have a moment, reach out to one of the school board members, reach out to the superintendent, reach out to a teacher, just tell them thank you. They're working really, really hard. Thank goodness it's break. They need a break. But we would like them to come back, second semester with a fresh attitude and knowing that we all really care about them and we know that they're doing a really good job despite some of the comments that they hear on Town Chatter or some of the other sites. So just kind of my point there. A couple of updates from Dr. Wyndham. The first being that at the previous school board meeting, they recognized Amber Walters, who is the president at Avon Intermediate West. She was selected as our region's middle school principal of the year by the Indiana Association of School Principals. So that's a very big award and very exciting for our school corporation and for Amber. If you don't know Amber, she is cream of the crop. She is wonderful. And then the other big news, which is a big deal, is that Pine Tree Elementary was selected as one of only 100 schools across the country for Distinguished Schools Award for using federal funds to improve academic achievement in 2021. So 1 out of 100 in the whole country. It's a pretty big deal. So those are my school updates.
Awesome. I don't necessarily have a library update. Do you?
Yeah, I attended the library board meeting a few weeks ago. It was a special one called for the purpose of talking about so the town is starting to do what I call building the border along the western boundary of the township. And that's in conjunction with the help from us because it's helping protect our fire territory taxes. And then also the school and the library, because if Danville came over, and if they did TIF districts, so there would be loss of funds there. And if Danville did like Plainfield did before, their TIFs, they passed through money to Plainfield schools and Plainfield library, but didn't give our school or library any money, even though 1/10 of the school population for Avon is in the Plainfield town. So with that in mind, we did a joint letter, and that was the purpose of that meeting, was for the library board to allow Jeff Bradley, who was on their board, to sign that letter and be part of that process. And we're actually going to do a open house tomorrow night between 5 and 7 p.m. at the town hall for those property owners that were invited. So I'll be able to report to you next month on something like that.
Thank you. On to department reports, township assistance.
November
Done.
stayed kind of steady with 17 interviews, 5 approvals, 8 denials, and at the time moving into the month with 1 pending. Total pledge, a little under $4,000. We did have a couple of different reasons for denial in the month of November. One was assets. Another was a landlord that was not willing to work with us because we had already previously denied amount for an applicant, and then he came back seeking assistance, but the total was over $10,000. And without us being able to pledge that amount, the landlord was unwilling to accept payment from us. So that's where one of the denials came from. As well as one terminating gainful employment, so an individual that had sought and received assistance from the township in October, came back in November for assistance, but had terminated gainful employment without really just cause, and so that was the reason for denial in the month of November. Yeah, does anybody have any questions?
I just thought an interesting comment. I think this is the first time since I've been on this board that I've seen a burial request. So that's just kind of interesting.
There was actually, last month, there were 3 burial requests all within 1 week. One person did cancel, their appointment, like had withdrew the application. And then that's actually where the one with the assets came in because the deceased did have, property, so we were unable to assist with that, so.
Thank you. Okay, human resources.
Ooh. I just did kind of a snapshot of staff where we were as of a week ago. We had 88 males, 42 females, over all of our different departments, which is kind of normal considering, most of our staff is in fire. But it looks like we've done a good job trying to keep that even in our other departments. The next one is ethnicity. There we go, that word always gets me. We have recently posted our paramedics and EMS division chief jobs on a national minority website to try to get more, more diverse candidates. The next one is generations. As you can see, we're kind of in the middle of the generation. If you were to look at it overall, we had 4 new hires in the month of December. This says 3, but we just had 1 this Monday, so that is 4 new hires, 3 females, 1 male, 2 for parks, and 2 paramedics. We have 2 new paramedics that are scheduled to start in February. Our new station, 1 male, 1 female.
Great, thank you. Any other questions?
No.
Okay. Community engagement.
We're live streaming. That was kind of a thing that we worked on.
Is this like the mic?
That is one of the mics.
Okay.
Yes, so be prepared.
Well, it's just really close.
So we worked in November to, stream our last board meeting. We streamed the park grand opening. We're streaming right now, and we had another community connections segment about the tree lighting. So we're kind of just trying to, continue to upgrade our communication with the residents and with our social media. If you scroll down just a little bit, our newsletters are continuing to grow. The Park Life is definitely a very fun one, so they are definitely getting subscribers. And the thing I highlighted in there was that they have good open rates, so that means people that are subscribing actually do want to read what we're putting out, which is a good thing. We worked on the last little bit of details for the casino Christmas party. Overall, that went really well. We had some recent sponsors since our last thank you. So R.L. Turner really helped us out to help us put on a good party, and Merritt Hall Insurance. And just coming up for 2022, we've got a couple new events that we're going to be starting to plan and keep on moving forward. So.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So Parks and Rec, recreation. Sorry.
Sorry, I'm moving the clicker too. Okay. So we had a lot of exciting things happen in the month of November with the IPRA conference and then the opening of Pop Park. I am happy to announce that we were understaffed with 3 individuals, but now we are at completely full staff, so that's very exciting. It took us a long time to get to that. With our ending numbers for the month of November, we are at 117 for our revenue, 117% for our revenue goal. And if you look at the camp numbers, Britt sent out, I believe we have almost doubled what we made last year in our camp. I just want to make sure that you keep in mind that that is with having about $12,000 that we did not receive each week with people that we had to turn away because our camp is at capacity.
Yep.
So we would like to research other opportunities to be able to provide more camps to more kids. We are one of the most affordable camps out there. And I really think that we should look into what we have in our assets, what we're making from camp, and what we can give back to the camp program. So we'd like to come and bring you some of those suggestions next year.
So with the capacity, is it people, space?
It's mostly our space.
Okay.
So right now we run the camp completely out of our upper park. With the restroom facilities that we have, we are on a well and septic system, and we were not doing well with that well and septic system with 120 kids each day. So next year, our camp director is actually running 3 different camps. So she will be running a camp at Pecar Park that is more nature-based. She'll be running a camp at Washington Township Park in the upper and lower park. And she'll be also running a half-day camp at Murphy.
Okay.
So that's gonna give us some options, but it is gonna spread us out all over the place. So we may need more staff, but as you know, the staff is paid for with registration.
Okay. Any other questions?
No. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, fire.
I've been prompted by one of my colleagues to be brief,
Wow.
so I will do my best to do that since most of the major things that are going on we'll talk about here, and a couple of other updates. I won't begrudge my report, but answer any questions you might have. I'd say probably one of the biggest things we've accomplished in the last few weeks is we did onboard 2 new civilian paramedics, and that may not sound like much because I know we're always doing it, but the thing that makes it big is that we've been trying to get to the number 18 for
5 years,
4 years. It's taken us 4 years to get to 18, and we just, knock on wood, got those 2. So we're fully staffed on our medic trucks that we've been working to do for quite a period of time. That's a testament to all the hard work Ted's been doing to get that done and all the hours that he's been spending doing that. So I wanted to make sure I talked about that. Probably the only other thing that I wanted to bring to your attention, I mentioned in my report when I was talking about the construction of our new vehicles. One of the things that's holding us up substantially on our medic trucks, our new trucks, and our remounts is the backlog in chassis. Right now they're running 6 to 12 months out.
The new ambulance, they won't even give us an estimated time. Now they're saying about 10 to 12 months for a remount.
So we have a new ambulance that's ordered right now that we're hoping to get in sometime, probably June or July. We had a remount scheduled for next year, and we had another one scheduled for 23. What we would like to do is to go ahead and give the vendor approval to go ahead and order those 2 chassis now, so that we have those. Even though we're not gonna do one of them until 23, the reality of it is the first one probably won't get done until 23. So rather than being 3 years behind on our remounts, it doesn't put us in any liability money-wise. I've talked to the vendor. He said, I'll order them, there's no problem. I said, okay, worst case, we cancel the remount, what happens? He said, I'll sell your chassis the day after you call me. So there's really no liability, but I just wanted the board to know that we were gonna go ahead and do that, just so that we could try to stay closer to schedule on some of our remounts.
Okay.
Any questions about that?
Does the early and late, how does that impact anything?
It stays within the Q fund budget, so how you appropriate it out, I mean, obviously there's funds there, so.
Usually what happens every year is when I do the Q report and I show when we start payments on the apparatus, normally that's incorrect. Normally I'm way ahead of when we actually take delivery. So worst case scenario, pushes the payments back to whenever we start the payments until whenever they're completed.
Okay.
It just really affects the Q, but we still stay within budget every year on the Q material when those things happen.
Okay.
The other thing I wanted to just read at the end was the note that we got from the lady on Laurel Oaks Drive. And I'll quote what she said. We live at 1416 Laurel Oak Drive in Avon. Yesterday morning around 8:30, we had a call for 911 for my father, who was in our basement and could not breathe. Within minutes, 6 to 8 people were in the basement saving his life. He's no small man, and they carried him up the stairs quickly and with so much care and tremendous strength. I want to drop off something to say thank you to the team. There was an ambulance and a fire truck, and I'm not sure how to find the entire team, but I want you to know that we're so grateful. And she included a picture, and that was B shift medic 141 and engine 141 that responded to that call. So anytime we get those, I like to take the opportunity to give kudos to our folks. The good work that they do every day. So any other questions I can answer, like I said, I'll update you on the training ground and station with that.
I've got an unrelated question to any of the stuff that's in here. As part of the township collaboration, one of the things that we had identified at the first meeting was whether or not it would be possible for the police cars to come over and use our mechanic. Do we have any update on that?
I have approached the police chief about that, and Chris did it even before we had that discussion.
Okay.
There's really been no movement that I know of, but I've talked to Sean specifically. I've offered that up and told him that we'd be happy to look at that potential to be able to do that, but to this point, it's not coming.
So you need Chief Stoops to reach out to you, that's where it's at.
I think we just need to, for him to decide,
Looking at me.
and I don't,
I don't have an update, I'm just taking that as, I hear you.
no, I don't want to get Sean in trouble.
No.
That's not my
I got-
intention.
Not at all.
Oh,
We have had conversations with him.
So Ryan called me after you and Don met and talked to me about it. So the way we've left it is after the first of the year, you and I and James or Chris one will meet with Ryan and maybe a couple of them over there to talk about, how we could do that and that type of thing and how we could work it out and whether it's feasible. So
okay.
that's where we're at. So
Awesome.
but we're going to wait till after the first of the year only because of the holidays and everything
Oh,
else.
for sure.
And then with that too, I want to make sure you guys noticed in your report that I put that James did get his recertification exams passed for his emergency vehicle technician. So he is certified again to do that for it. So, okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Don, you are up.
Okay, besides my regular thing in my report about today's meeting, first of all, as I told you last month, State Board of Accounts was doing the audit for the 2019-2020 budget years. They did complete that. We had an excellent interview last Friday. Chairman Summers, Deputy Trustee Woodard, and myself met with the team. We have been directed that we cannot talk about it until it is published. That's the way it works. So once it's published, we'll be able to more happy, and it'll be on site for everybody to see, so went under gateway. But that's the way they work. So we were directed that we cannot, because I was gonna talk about it and everything, but they said we had to wait until after that was published. So that's all I can tell you for right now.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
So with that though, I could
Yeah.
walking the line of said gag order, if you will, and I don't do well with that, but I know Britt's not here. Just when it comes out, Britt did an absolutely amazing job. And yeah, just the team has done keeping track of stuff. I'll leave it at that. I mean, you can imagine what it says, which is, I'm not supposed to say, but she did an awesome job. And just Don and everybody's done an amazing job. So kudos everyone. Little tiny tweaks that has to do with weird gap, your world stuff, your old world stuff, but
so.
Yeah.
So next month we'll definitely talk about it. So that'll be January 4th. Also, we did receive the 1782 order from the Department of Local Government Finance for our budget. It was approved as presented. And with the advice of our financial advisor, we went ahead and just accepted it as it was because, and I know the town was the same way in the school and I assume the library, but the assessed valuation in Washington Township increased considerably. And so it actually brought things down as far as tax rates and that kind of stuff. So it was good. So but we're good to go for next year, so starting January 1. Then the next thing, last Friday was our Christmas party. And at that Christmas, we did had a great party. I want to thank Karen and her committee for that. And thank all of you for being there. I do want to announce that there were 7 nominees for the 2021 Township Employee of the Year. And for the minutes, I'll put them in there. Chris Cron from Fire Support Services, Courtney Lee from Fire Administration, Steve McIntyre from Parks, Ryan Middleton from Parks, Melissa Thompson from Parks, DJ Wilson from Fire Ops, and Britt Wood from Township Administration. Each of those received at least 1 nomination. Some received more than 1 nomination. The chairman of the selection committee, who is outside Hendricks County, and that's all I have conversation with the chairman of the committee. But that person told me they had a very, very, very tough time this time trying to, pick the winner. But they did select a winner, and at the party last Friday, I did announce that Courtney Lee was the 2021 Township Employee of the Year. She received a nice trophy, and her name's engraved on the plaque out there in the lobby. And then from Cruise One, she also received overnight accommodations at I'm trying to remember. Pardon?
JW.
Was it JW? Okay. A JW, I mean, a $200 gift card to San Elmo's and so those type of things. So we appreciate Cruise One. But this whole party was paid for by sponsorship money and donations. Not one tax dollar was used. The only thing I used tax dollars on was the plaque that Courtney got along with engraving the plaque out here. So that's the only thing we use taxpayer money on. So. I also want to remind the board that the joint workshop with the Avon Town Council will be held on January 5th at 6:30 p.m. That'll be at the town hall. And as far as I know, that will still be held, and the committees will be making their reports, and there'll be a couple other things I think they want to bring up too in that session. Township Board reorganization will be January 4th. At 3 p.m. At that point, you'll elect your officers, and you also establish your finance board and your officers for that too, besides a regular board meeting. So that's my report.
Okay. Anybody any questions for Don?
I just want to reiterate, thank you. Who all was on the party planning? Laura, Karen, yeah, awesome. You ladies did an awesome job. So thank you for that.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Okay, training ground update. And then you can go into station 144 from there, so don't sit down.
Let's do them both on here.
There you go.
Training ground update, believe it or not, we actually got something done there.
That was quick.
Well, it's not totally complete, but we started. Last week we had a crane that came on site and actually placed our 5 containers in what's called a double throated tube. Basically, it's a T that's 1 story, and then There's a second story on the stick part of the T, if you will. There's a stairwell on the interior that goes from the basement to the upstairs, and then one end of the downstairs containers, we have what's called a flash shower chamber built in. And what that does is it gives us the ability to put OSB, basically like paneling, particle board, inside that building and show firefighters how fire growth happens. So we can basically start it small, we can control the oxygen and everything, and kind of show them that fire builds, and they can be in there to see the smoke, the heat increase in the heat and all that. Chief Porter told me that their plan is that they're gonna be done with that portion of the training ground next week. Our plan is to paint those buildings probably sometime next spring. But short of that building should be complete by the end of next week. I just got word when I walked in the door for the meeting, we have finally finalized our contract with our builder that's building the tower. The attorney has given me some input on the contract, and we just got everything dialed in for that today. So I'll be having the trustees sign the contract tomorrow, and that contract will take effect January 3rd, and the completion date is the end of April. So by the end of April, we should have the second container built, and then once that's completed, my plan is to try to get the burn cells done that we wanted to construct for Levi. That's probably going to require us to purchase probably 3 additional containers, and we'll put those probably next to the double-throated T that we just built. But Levi have a facility that he can use to do training burns to show for fire investigation purposes. So that should get us, and once we get the big building done, we'll go ahead and get the fence put up and get some of those kinds of things done. But it is starting to move, and it's starting to actually look like a training ground. So appreciate your patience. I know it's taken a long time. Believe me, no one's happier than I am to see it open. Any questions?
Nope.
Thank you.
Did you want to do 144?
Okay, I'll stay.
Good afternoon, my name's John. I'm going over the Station 144 budget and the Murphy Park budget as well. First off, Station 144 budget, we do remain on budget and on schedule. We have a remaining $103,000 remaining in our owner contingency, about $43,000 remaining in our construction contingency fund. Also, remediation has been completed to date, so we are out of the clear, or in the clear on that. You actually will see that reflected on next month's pay application as a revised contract amount. In total, the soil remediation cost was right around $64,000 that we had to bill out of our owner contingency fund. We did reallocate $25,000 of that as an allowance earlier on in the project as part of the construction contingency fund. So all in all, about $100,000 in unsuitable soils that we had on the Fire Station 144 project. Chris Caron and myself continue to order FF&E items. We are nearly complete with that. We just have a few pieces of furniture that we need to order, but we are good on lead times with FF&E, which is fantastic. Now on to schedule and some material procurement items. Do you mind pulling up the 144 drone shot? I think it's above.
This one?
Yeah.
Can you turn it sideways?
Is it able to
Rotate it.
rotate, or do we have to
No, I think
rotate clockwise?
Just, rotate.
Perfect.
There you go.
All right, so if you don't mind, I'm gonna pop up here real quick. This was from last Thursday. Believe it or not, we've got a ton of work done since then. We were able to get the apparatus 8-inch heavy-duty slab poured for those apparatus. Further back, we were able to get the binder completed for the pedestrian walk as well as the binder for the entry drive. Those we were not sure that we're going to be able to get before the end of the year given the temperature conditions. But Globe was able to get out there and save us a mobilization cost by getting that done, which is great. Another thing is we do have all the brick completed. Nearly all the lap siding over here is complete. Really all that's left siding wise is the board and batten, which is fantastic. We should be able to be fully closed in, I'm hoping, by the end of next week. So that we are able to begin finishes in the gabled roof areas. In previous board meetings, we've talked about procurement items, roofing being a big issue that we've experienced on several projects, not just this one, but we do have this Firestone V-Force, which is considered a temporary roof. It's not insulated, which was an issue with starting finishes with hanging drywall and whatnot with condensation issues. We were able to identify a 3¼ inch polyiso, which is the insulation for the roof. My understanding is that was delivered on site and will be completed by the end of this week. So they'll be able to put that 3¼ inch polyiso, they'll nail that into the V-Force that's there, then they'll put a synthetic felt over the top of it, which will completely dry us in, and we will be able to start pumping heat into these gabled roof areas, therefore starting to hang drywall and running conduit and rough ends and whatnot. So that was an issue or concern that we had, that we would possibly have to move our substantial completion date back, because we didn't know when we'd be able to get that polyiso. So now that we have that, we are still on track for substantial completion of March 1st. Another issue with the roof after the polyiso is installed is the nail base. So nail base is what goes down, and then the dimensional shingles will nail into that nail base. So as you're aware, November 15th is come and gone. That was the date that we were told that would be released into production via the manufacturer. They're now saying that's not going to happen until January. So end of January at that. So in order to, from what I understand, we are still able to get a Temp CFO without having the shingles on, since it is a fully insulated roof. But that is something that we need to continue to monitor on this project, is that nail base. But they do feel confident, and January is when that will be installed, and that'll take nearly probably a week to get that nail base on, as well as the shingles. Other material procurement items that we've identified is the overhead doors. I know we've discussed this in other meetings as well. The overhead doors are expected to be on site at the end of December. Those overhead doors will come in painted. They won't need to be field painted. That was a concern that we had, is that we would have to field paint them. They were able to get them factory painted. They will have temp panels, solid panels on them until we were able to get the glazing, which won't be until April. So after we have occupancy, that's another thing that won't hold up any kind of temp CFO, but we won't be able to get that permanent glazing in until April. Another one that we had just identified, Chief, I know you're aware of as well, is the generator. So we're experiencing generator issues on our projects as well. Meyer Najum has informed us that we may not be able to get that generator until September now. So originally we were expecting a generator to take a month to 2 months, where we'd have to have a temp generator. That was covered in Meyer Najum's general conditions. Now that we're outside of that time frame, we are working on an agreement of some sort with Meyer Najum to identify who is going to absorb those temp costs. So that is fluid right now on figuring out what that even looks like number-wise and how that's going to be handled. At the end of the day, our interest is best interest of the town, Township. It is a CMC agreement, so they are holding risk and they're aware of that. So I'm hoping that we come to an agreement to where Meyer Najum is able to absorb those costs. That concludes my update for Station 144. Chief, did you have anything to add to that?
No, I think one of the problems with the generator is that the way they've been able to get a workaround on a lot of those jobs that are going right now is they've been able to secure rental generators. But those are getting so scarce now that they're even not having any success finding help with that. I told them they just went and bought us a Ford truck, we could plug it in.
So can't we just Amazon this? I don't understand.
So anyway, they are putting color on the walls on the interior. Went inside and they're actually painting the interior walls in the areas that already have drywall. So they're moving right along on a lot of that work that's going on the inside.
So that flat roof, everything but the gabled roof, is where they've been able to start finishes. That is a finished roof. So there's no issue with condensation. They're pumping heat through those areas right now. And as Chief mentioned, they are nearly complete. They're done with drywall. Obviously, they are starting to paint. Rough ends are nearly complete as well. So it's really just the gabled roof areas that we're a little late to the game on, but we are confident that they'll be able to make that time up and hold that March 1st substantial completion date.
Okay. One of the things we talked about in prior months has been stabilization of the land in front of the in front of the equipment base.
The soil stabilization. Yes, sir. So, those were stabilized this period. That was part of that $64,000 in soil remediation. That was, as I had mentioned, built out of our owner contingency. So we still have that $103,000. That is all completed, all of that. There's binder on top of that. And where you see that gravel right now is where they'll pour that slab for the apron, for the apparatus, and that should be done by the end of the year, where all that gravel is. So
We're
there
pretty
should,
much done with stabilization.
we're good with soil remediation. Yep, so that was a huge chunk of our spending for owner contingency was for stabilization of soils. So we are complete with soil stabilization.
So plan B was to use concrete.
Correct. Was to use
But
a
we
lean,
didn't have to do that.
was to use lean concrete of sorts, because we didn't think we'd be able to get glow back out there again. They were able to get back out there and put binder down, so there's no need to do any kind of lean concrete pour binder.
And then what they
of
did
sorts.
across the front where the blacktop path is they used the mesh and then gravel.
Geogrid.
Geogrid, which is what they did in the parking lot
Mhm.
too. So they have that on the blacktop area that covers that area that needed to be stabilized.
Yeah, and or I went by earlier today and saw that they were doing some paving of the sidewalk and that kind of thing. So we're not supposed to have 50, 60-degree temperature in December, but
Correct.
they were utilizing the weather. That was great.
Right, as long as you're above freezing, there's typically, you're in the clear on that. But yes, soil remediation is completed, which is fantastic, and binder is down, which was a concern that we'd have to pay for another remobilization come spring. So we're in the clear on that as well, so.
So
Good
does the
progress.
generator issue keep us from closing on time?
Keep us from the substantial completion date of March 1st. So there isn't a concern of getting the temp generator. With a temp generator, we'll be able to get our silo. So there's no issue with opening the fire station. It's just, we don't know when we're gonna get our permanent generator, because otherwise we're paying for that temp generator, right? So we're gonna get the temp generator immediately, whenever they have it, and we'll have it by March 1st in order to get temp silo. It's just how long are we gonna have
So
to
they
have
have
that?
to run it from March to September.
Maybe, yeah, unless something comes up and they're able to get it sooner.
The other thing I wanted to add is, if you remember right, the county is doing a drainage project on 900. That part so we took care of that part on our driveway and the frontage of our property. And the agreement was they would reimburse us. So I've submitted that. I've been advised by the county auditor that we'll have payment by the end of the month.
And are they gonna fix that road out there too, or is it kind of
Where they ripped up all the dirt and soil and whatnot, they will regrade that, and that will be, seed straw.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just because between that and the road, I don't want it to look like
Right.
it was kind of our
That-
project, we kind of
That actually
ditched it and
is
left
not
it.
a part of the county drainage, that's actually a part of our project,
Oh,
which
okay.
was included in our budget, so yes, that will still be completed.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions on 144?
And do you know, Don, is the county plan to do something with that road? The road's getting a little,
I don't know what their plans are. I'm
I don't
sure if they
know.
are, they probably won't do it until sometime next year because who knows what they're gonna have to do across there between now and when they get that drainage
sure.
project done.
Okay.
So,
We might want to budget for more suspension in the vehicles if,
More tires.
I mean, something, it's pretty gnarly. So, okay, that's not our issue.
I think, Robert, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the town's been in conversation with the county about that road, haven't they?
Yeah, I was just checking, I think that's on our agenda to this Thursday, is to enter an interlocal agreement with the county. Yeah,
Oh, good, okay.
But what was that in the southern part of 900, south of 100 north?
I don't have it off the top of my head, I'll get back to you.
Because I think they were talking about access.
Which
I
wouldn't
think
be,
it is.
wouldn't be in front of us. It
But
would
it's
be-
just an interlocal.
south of
that
one.
area. I'm sorry.
It's only a mile north, so. What's a mile of asphalt?
Any other questions about Station 144?
No, thank you.
Talk about Murphy now.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll move on here to Murphy Park budget schedule. We do remain on track for schedule. Murphy Park, we have $376,000 remaining in our owner contingency fund. as well as around $173,000 in our construction contingency fund. At Murphy Park, we are continuing to monitor savings associated with the project in order to fully fund the playground, as we have discussed in prior board meetings. We have identified fiber costs from AT&T. So we were originally gonna have AT&T pull fiber from 625 back to the IT building, so that first building that you see there. They gave us a quote, a monthly recurring fee, basically of $1,800 a month, which is outrageous. So I reached out to Stonewall Contracting, who's the same fiber supplier that did Station 144. They bored from 36 back to Station 144. It's around 8,000 linear feet of boring that they did. So there is a handhole just north of the railroad tracks on 625 East that they can pull from, as they can pull from back to Murphy Park, which is about, I believe, around 3,000 linear feet of boring that they would have to perform. I did get a quote from them for $44,000 to do that, which I have vetted and feel is very fair compared to what we see on other projects. So I did some math, and basically if we were to pay AT&T $1,800 a month, we would be paying them $44,000 in 24 months. So that's gonna pay for itself in 2 years if we go with Stonewall Contracting. That will give Washington Township, you'll be running off of the fiber that you're already using on Station 144 and your other buildings. So I got that teed up with Stonewall, ready to pull the trigger when I receive confirmation on that. So again, this would put the township on their own fiber again. We do have a remaining $90,000 in our unsuitable soils allowance. I have talked with CRM, who is the earthwork and excavating contractor for R.L. Turner. They're thinking around 35 to 40. They're thinking on the high end to do soil remediation on those A-cell and D-cell lanes. So once we have a better idea and are able to go out there and proof roll, and Alton Witzig performs a recommendation to us, we'll be able to identify those costs more clearly. A few updates here on the DNR and the playground, and we'll jump into a little bit of the budget as well again. We did receive our permit, or we will receive our permit on December 18th. So DNR finally got back with us and released us to perform that work at the culvert and the A-cell lane. I was able to identify roughly $25,000 to $30,000 added costs for this work. So this includes the critter walk in that culvert. It's around $16,000 to fabricate that material. R.L. Turner added around $3,500 to $4,000 for installation of that. And then there's some miscellaneous costs for the riprap stone that was recommended by DNR. So all in all, we're looking at around $25,000 to $30,000. We had a meeting, Don, myself, and David, with HWC on this. We are tracking this as an error and omission from HWC, so they are aware of this, and we will hold $25,000 to $30,000 from their contract until we reach an agreement at the end of the project and decide how those funds are going to be settled. HWC is aware, and they are very much so aware of this, and they'll cover what they need to cover. Yep. As far as the playground goes, so we've had some meetings these past few weeks with R.L. Turner, trying to get play pros involved as well, but we are working on some VE options for the playground in order to fully fund that package. And like I had mentioned earlier, we do feel confident that we'll be able to do so. I've put together a rough list of savings, adds, and some value engineering costs. Like I had mentioned earlier, we are $474,000 over budget as we stand right now. On this sheet that I have here, I've been able to identify about $50,000 from our unsuitable soils that we should have remaining. And keep in mind, these are on the higher end, so this is more of a worst case scenario than anything. I'm thinking we'll be able to release around $300,000 of our owner contingency since we've hardly spent any of this to date. Our FF&E savings, Laura's done a really good job with identifying those costs and keeping them on the low end and mitigating costs in that area. I am expecting to see around $50,000 of that $144,000. So we've gotten a quote from Renault for $14,000. We've gotten Stonewall Fiber for $44,000. Identifying around $29,000 to $30,000 for low voltage and IT on the project. $7,000 roughly for wayfinding and signage. We've got DNR's $25,000 that we'll have to spend out of the project in order to fund that we're working on it with HWC as well. Play Pros, who is the contractor for the playground, they have identified material upcharge for the project of around $44,000. I haven't seen these numbers yet. I need to vet them and make sure that those are legit. I don't think 44 seems very high to me for just material charges in itself. We were able to identify around $40,000 to $50,000 in VE for the playground, for the turf in itself. So what I'm looking at with all those numbers, and I apologize, I just threw those all out there, and I can more than happy to send this list to you guys once I button this down a little bit more. But we're looking more at around $82,000 over budget, not $474,000 over budget. This does not include any grants of any sort or any construction contingencies. We have 173 in our construction contingency. We're not going to pull that from our alternator until we're sure that they're not going to need it ethically in that sense. So I'm more than confident that we're going to be able to fully fund the playground in its entirety. Now, I don't think we're going to be able to deliver it on the 26th of May. Since we're just now getting into this, Play Pros has not released any playground material of any sort yet until we identify that we have the budget to do so. So there is going to be some lead time issues with that, and Laura and I have discussed that if we need to push it out until the fall, then we need to push it out until the fall.
Agreed to fall.
Agreed to fall, yeah, of 2023, right?
No.
Okay, so 2022. So we are working through that, and I do have meetings weekly with our alternator and HWC to identify costs that may have come up, and we'll be getting Play Pros on board here very shortly once we kind of define what these numbers are going to look like exactly. I know it's an information overload in a sense, but at the end of the day, I do feel fairly confident that this will be funded fully.
If you could, John, if you send that
Absolutely.
breakdown to
Yeah.
them and then
Yeah.
copy me and Laura on it.
Yes, sir.
82 has to make you feel a little bit better, right?
Of course,
Then 400.
So I would say yes and no.
Yeah.
That's a big number to value engineer down. And just want to make sure we didn't value engineer some real value out of that process, because I've seen that happen before. So are you comfortable with that from an operational
Yeah, we
standpoint?
went really high with a lot of those numbers
Okay,
to put us into this scenario.
okay.
So we knew we would have some excess at the end to help with this. We just weren't comfortable telling you what that excess was until right now.
No, sure. I just want, again,
And
Goofy things
we are
get-
pushing back on them as much as possible.
Yeah. We've turned down about 150 grand in change orders at this point.
Okay.
And our alternator has done an incredible job at keeping those very minimal. They've had very, very little scope gaps. And again, this 82,000 is on the higher end. I'd say for around 60. And that's again without any grants of any sort, which I know we don't want to bank on getting grants. But it doesn't include any construction contingency as well, which we have hardly touched, or our alternative has hardly touched as well. So now, right now, standing here, I don't feel comfortable saying, hey, let's release it 100%. But the rate we've been going and what we have identified today with all soil remediation being out of the way, going vertical on the buildings, concrete being poured mainly, I feel a lot more confident than I did a month ago.
Okay.
So
I guess that's my question. I know you're busy. You're busy, right? Where do we stand on applying for grants? What grants? I know with this being an inclusive playground, I think we've all talked about there has to be money out there to make this happen for our community. Is there something we as a board can do to help?
So we finally heard from Brian Bosma. We had a meeting, I believe it was last week. I think it was last week. And we heard from him, and we can only get grant funding up to 10% of the project as far as anything that has a name on something, which everyone's gonna want some type of name on it, which leaves us about 85,000 in 2022. After that, it is 125,000. Don't quote me on that. It's around that until the bond is paid.
per year.
per year.
Yeah,
until the
starting in
bond is paid off.
2023, all the way
Now,
through.
there's several stipulations with that, so we are watching it very closely. He's gonna give us a write-up, he has not sent it yet, a write-up of what we had talked about. Cause there are some very strict rules on every single thing on there. So once we get that write-up, we can actually go start to get some of this stuff with the naming rights on it, and I'm pretty confident that we can get, I don't know if I can get completely up to that number by May, but I'm confident that we can get a good amount of money for the project.
So I will say sponsorships, yes, they're gonna want naming rights for different things and let their logo out there. Most grants, they're not as big on it, they're doing it for,
Right, it depends.
to give back to the
grant,
community, it
right.
completely depends. So that might be kind of a loophole, that if there are some grants that we can get, they might not require that.
Right.
But we don't know unless we try.
So Stephanie and I, we're looking for a grant writer that more or less specializes in inclusivity, because that's where a lot of this park is different than any other park in, you know, even the world, because it's the first ever ADA accessible water playground. Inclusive play on the playground, you know, every feature has been designed to that aspect. So we're hoping to get a lot of grant funding because of that inclusive play, and hoping that that will encourage other parks to in the future include that in their design as well. And that's just naming rights. I mean, we can get more than that if it's, I mean, we've had anonymous people donate water wheelchairs for us, with no strings attached. They just want people to be able to enjoy the pool.
Well, that's
So-
kind of my point with the playground. I feel
Right.
like we could get that funded by, you know, you and I can talk offline about the different organizations that I
Right.
think would do it just for the good of the community and for the good of these children, and because
Right.
that's what they do.
Right.
And they don't require usually the logo or things like that. They're not doing it for the publicity,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Nothing wrong with those sponsors that are.
Yeah.
But so we can talk later and see if we can navigate through that.
Pretty good from my part.
Yeah, one other thing, this was taken on Thursday again. We had a 200-yard slab pour our alternator did on Monday. This is actually all poured, the slab is, which is great. That takes care of all the concrete for the wave pool as well as the activity pool here outside of the activity pool walls, which will be poured here in the next 2 weeks.
We shared a video of that on our Facebook page. It's actually, you can see the whole pour from, they did it from early in the morning. They had lights out there getting everything poured until late at night, and they got the entire thing done. They had everybody out there that day. Even their marketing guy was out there pouring concrete. So it was kind of neat to see.
200 yards, it's a lot of concrete.
Yeah.
So with getting concrete out to any projects these days, it's a challenge. So we were very, very much so happy to get that done. Sorry, done. That's all I have.
Okay, we were able to meet with Danville Parks this month. Danville Parks uses the same point of sale system that we use. We have been trying to get a meeting set up so that Brett could speak to someone about cash handling policies so that she could feel more comfortable with our cash handling policies. Danville actually shared with us all of their policies and procedures, and they shared with us their end of day spreadsheet. So we plan to use a lot of those policies and procedures. Stephanie and I have been working through an entire policies and procedures manual that will go through Ashley and Dawn and then ultimately be approved by you guys as well. Stephanie and I were able to attend AquaCon. We got a lot of information from that meeting as far as staff incentives, getting staff on board, keeping staff on board. It was a great conference to attend. We started doing the FF&E list. We've been identifying several, cost-effective ways to buy things. We've also been, kind of dwindling down what we actually need versus what we want to buy. So we're seeing a lot of cost savings with that as well. We're starting to get all of those things delivered. We also have, we can move forward with DNR, and then you'll see here in the new business, we created all of the job descriptions for your approval. After this meeting, we plan to open the job
the job posting for the aquatics director and also the grounds maintenance that will be at Murphy's, so we can bring them on early in the project. So they'll be there when we first start. We're excited to bring those two individuals on board. With how long it's taken with our previous positions, we want to put that out now, so that way we can get a really good candidate for those positions. And we've actually had some people who have already reached out to us wondering when those jobs are gonna be posted, which is exciting. People who have firsthand experience in aquatics facilities in Indiana. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is every other week we meet for our construction meetings, and every week I ask them if we are on target to open on Memorial Day weekend 2022, and we are on target. And I've actually pushed it back a little bit too, because I have some things leading up to that weekend that I would like to open for. So Steve had requested a list of the different events that I have already been planning, so that way you guys can get those on your calendars and get that ready to go. So I'll be providing you that list of the different amenities and kind of what I'll need from you guys there, just making sure you're there for pictures and things like that, press releases, those types of things. Anything else?
I think so. Timeline was my question.
Good.
We covered the financial reports already. Do you guys have any further questions on financials and reports with the projects? Okay. So we have the resolution for the township meeting calendar.
So we have resolution 12-14-21-01, which is the Washington Township Board meeting calendar for 2022 that has been vetted by all of you. By state statute, the January meeting is dictated when it'll happen, the first Tuesday after the first Monday, so that's January 4th. The Tuesday after that, most of the meetings are all, it looks like most of them are all the third Tuesday with the exception of one. I think there's a second Tuesday. There's also 2 or 3 Thursday meetings instead of Tuesdays. All of the meetings are scheduled for 3 p.m. with the exception of the February 15th meeting will be at 6:30, because that's when we do our State of the Township and our annual report. So with that, we're asking for the adoption so we can get this posted for the public so they know when our meetings are next year.
Did Brett make those changes that she and I?
Yep, did. Yep.
I'm looking at this October 13th, and that's during fall break, so I don't know who that affects.
Also, don't forget, you can also have special meetings too. Well, we just have to give 48 hour notice. So if it was an issue on that, I guess get with her, because she took all the dates you gave her. And that's what else she put on this calendar.
Okay.
Any other discussion? I move we adopt resolution 121421-01, board meeting calendar for 2022.
I will second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Resolution passes. There's the minutes there too. Sorry, I saw it earlier. Next up is the 2022 EMS rate adoption.
So Chief and Deputy Chief Allen both presented to you last month their recommendations. In a letter, they talked about why and everything. And the last time we've done this has been 2012. So they have included in here what their proposed rates are. And we're asking for an approval for this. Keep in mind, these are if they transport. With the exception of glucose, then there would be a non-resident fee of $250 would be assessed, for billing. But other than that, the billings have to do with being transported. So if a crew goes out, takes care of the situation there and doesn't transport, then, it's, there's no charge. They did do a resident and non-resident rate, as you guys requested. So that's the rates they're proposing, and if you are okay with that, we'll just need you to approve it with a motion, second, and a vote.
Steve, any questions?
No, not at all.
All right, I will make a motion. What number is this?
I don't think it's a resolution. It's
Not
not a
a
resolution.
resolution.
Yeah, it's
Just a
just,
motion to approve them to do it.
I will make a motion to approve the new proposed EMS fees.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. They have passed. On to new business. First one up is the resolution regarding 2022 township salaries.
So there you have the proposed salary resolution for 2022. You'll need to put a resolution number at the top there, Shane, if you would. Included in that is also the retirement class for each of those positions. So this lists every position, including the ones that we hope that you'll approve today later on. So this has the various rates. Now, some of the number of positions, keep in mind, we always reflect those numbers sometimes so that we have, some people that are covering another position or stuff. Also, I mean, with, vet staff, you could have more people hired or lifeguards, et cetera. So it gives you all those, and then it gives you the ranges, and it states whether it's hourly, bi-weekly, et cetera. And then you have the retirement classes, and I can go over those retirement classes if you want me to, but that's up to you. So.
They haven't changed? No. Okay, any questions on the salary resolution?
I do have one question. Pool manager, you're gonna have 4?
No, we inflate the numbers because with the way hiring goes, you have a lot of people who can't work often. You're still only gonna have one work at a time, but we wanna give ourselves the option to have 4 if we need to hire 4 to cover the different shifts in the
Okay.
summer.
Yep.
So it'll be 2 that we plan to hire. We may have to hire 3 if someone can't work.
To get 2 full-time
Yeah,
equivalent.
that's why you have 60 lifeguards on it. You're still only gonna have 11 working at a time, but you've got football practice and I can only work 1 day a week and.
These are students.
Yes.
Just like,
This is nose count as opposed to full-time equivalent.
Yes.
Gotcha.
just like you have battalion chiefs, you got 4 down, although they only have 3, but there are sometimes that they have an overlap in there, so. Somebody has to be paid as a battalion chief because the battalion chief got shipped out with Task Force 1 or something, so.
I have no issues.
Go right ahead.
Okay, I will make a motion to approve resolution number 121421-02, amending salaries of township officers and employees.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, resolution 121421-02 passes. Next up is use of township credit cards, resolution 121421-03.
So we talked about the credit, you had TCU here, was last month here to make a presentation of their program. What this resolution does is direct me to move our credit card accounts over to them. We will still continue to use Hendricks County up until February 1, but after February 1, there will be no more charges, incurred on those cards that we have. It also does change the limits on 2 of the cards up to $7,500. The 2 township ones will still be 5 and 10, and then the aggregate overall will be up to $50,000. It designates who's authorized to do what, and it's outlined in that. Also designates by position as opposed to names of the controllers for the various cards. So nothing there has changed. So just need your approval to allow me to go ahead and start that process.
Any other questions? I move we adopt resolution 121421-03 regarding the use of credit cards.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, resolution carries. Oh. All right, next up is the write-off of outstanding EMS fees. This is resolution 121421-04.
So back in 2011, the township board at that time did pass a resolution, resolution 1611-07, allowing us to write off EMS fees. And the guidance for that is the authorizes write-offs for ambulance transport in the following circumstances: where a deceased has no assets or where an estate's already closed. Small balances of 25 or less remains and the write-off is proposed by the trustee. where the person is indigent and the write-off is proposed by the trustee, where the outstanding balance is past the Indiana statute of limitations, which right now is 6 years, but we didn't put that, that in there because it could change by state statute. And when there's an unusual specified case submitted by the trustee to the board. So what we're doing is we're asking you to reauthorize that resolution, you're reauthorizing us to continue that process. And then with that also, Deputy Chief Allen has gotten with MedBill, and their it's right off from the 1st of 2021 through October 31st. Total amount would be $830,272.81. Those are the ones that meet those categories. So
Just so I'm clear on this, when we say write-off, because in the world I live in, write-offs mean a lot of different things. Write-off in this situation is what you describe, but also the difference between what we bill and what Medicare allows or the insurance
Right,
allows.
so.
Okay, I saw that in there. That's why I just want to, because that's the biggest chunk of this. Okay, I just want to make sure I was reading it right, because that's a large 6-digit number. Well, let's wait a 7. Okay.
Medicare, they dictate what it is, and you have to write the rest of it off. So.
Yeah.
If for some reason somebody wants to go back and pay that, we can always take it still, but again, otherwise, but.
I've been in that business a while too. Not people don't typically do that. Okay.
Any issues, concerns? Okay, I will make a motion to approve resolution 121421-04, resolution of the Township Board authorizing ambulance transportation write-offs.
Second.
All those in favor? I probably should ask this, but there aren't townships or EMS providers that balance bill that remaining difference, are there? There's nobody that balance bills the difference between what an insurance pays and what we bill, right?
Balance bill's not somewhere.
Okay, I don't know why it matters. I just thought I'd ask. So I probably shouldn't ask.
Next resolution, we're yanking, because it will be presented at the January 4th meeting. It actually won't even be a resolution, it'll just be an advice to you on what those, because we've contacted the State Board of Accounts and they've given us guidance on how to do that. To write off uncashed checks written by the township that have not been cashed. So Britt will have that report to you next month, and it'll be a memo just advising you as such, but it'll be directed to you as the finance board, and that's what the State Board of Accounts told us to do. So since your meeting is a Temp Finance Board next month, that's when that'll be done. So from that point on, all the resolution numbers change, so keep that in mind. If I have any numbers on there, changes, you'll have to change them. So the next one would be the job description. So that would actually be resolution 121421, and it would be -05. Attached to that is also all of the current positions that you're, plus the ones you're approving. Plus actually included all the job descriptions for the ones you're approving. If you remember the resolution that was passed back in 11/12/1904, said any job classifications that were changed by the trustee, approved by the trustee, all I had to do is advise you. But these are all brand new positions that we're creating, so that's why we're asking you to approve the Exhibit A, and Exhibit B would be all their job descriptions. So.
I know we've got an effective date on these.
These will be, you're directing me to all these job descriptions, and actually we'll put that on there. After this meeting, it will become effective January 1 of 2022.
All but the aquatics director.
Yeah.
That'll be effective immediately, so we can get it posted.
Yeah, that one was.
That was gonna be my question, of when were we planning on posting the various new ones?
We're hoping tomorrow,
Well,
for
on
the
that
aquatics
one,
director, the rest
and-
of them will probably be January.
Okay.
Any other questions on these?
Nope.
And this is, again, this is by me being, with these kind of moving is, and I know you're like 4 days into this and more than that, but but some level of standardization in the job descriptions so that they all kind of look the same and that kind of stuff. And then I know it has kind of a when it's been reviewed or renewed and that kind of stuff in there, revised, maybe even an annual, not an annual review, but whatever sequence you think, and putting that on there that they've been reviewed and that kind of stuff, just from a consistency standpoint as jobs evolve and stuff. So that's just, I'm not HR, but just that standardization I think would be good between every different kind of entity.
Obviously, the new ones that we have listed, I know why they exist. But the one for the EMS duty officer, how is that function being covered now? What, just enlighten me, I'm not quite sure.
It is not being covered right now. We don't have anybody in those positions. That's what-
Okay, so,
So as an example, right now, we've got Steve Strader that's basically being paid to be an assistant lieutenant. In the training assistant position description you got is kind of along those same lines, but basically, the EMS division chief's covering some of those things that are being done by, the chief or deputy chief or whatever, so, a lot of those tasks are just things that, and we're expanding the breadth of what we're doing to try to incorporate better service.
so it's just trying to consolidate some things in one position, so somebody's got responsible rather than it's a mishmash. That's where I was headed with that
Yeah,
question.
yeah, there's a purpose at the very beginning of it. Kind of explained it.
Okay. Any further questions, comments about that stuff?
Not to me.
Leon 05.
Okay, I will make a motion, to approve resolution 121421-05, list of job classifications as of December 14th, 2021.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next up is the 2021 budget group transfers.
So as you know, when you set your budget, there are times when different line items go negative, and there's times when within the group. And so to the state, to allow that to, zero it out, because we cannot end the year with a negative balance on any line item. So the board is allowed by state statute to do what's called a group transfer. So you can go from group 1 to group 2 or group 3, or 3 to 1, et cetera, within a fund, okay? We can't transfer money from one fund, like the fire fund over to park, or for township over to park, or something like that. But you can do group transfers. And then at the end of the year, then I can go back even further within a group and then move money that I have excess in a particular line item to put another line in, in at least a zero balance or positive, so that we don't end the year with negative balance. So she has put together this group transfer, and this, this allows us to move that money and allow us to obtain that goal. And then at the end of the year, we'll be able to end the year on a positive note. So we're in positive note, but I mean, it's, this is, how we have always done this over the years. So any questions?
So this is this members of the oversight committee, that's us.
No.
No.
So you're looking wrong resolution.
That one.
This will be actually resolution
too far.
07.
I thought we were 06.
We're on 06. It's on the agenda, it's 07, but it's going to be 06 when we approve it.
No questions? Okay, I move we adopt, resolution 121421-06, resolution of the Washington Township Board, authorizing appropriation funds to be transferred from groups within a specific fund.
I will second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next one up
Now we
is.
oversight committee and
I
all
wonder why
that
those
stuff.
aren't matching up.
So as you know, every year, and it'll probably started 4 years ago, the state started requiring all taxing entities to set up mandated internal controls. So we've been doing that every year, and every year the board has to adopt, again, the same, what directives we have set up. First of all, you name an oversight committee. It can be yourself, the board, or you can name outsiders. I mean, typically the boards always name themselves. So this resolution would be actually naming the oversight committee, and so if you decide to do yourselves, you're gonna need to put the 3 names in there. And then the next part of that will be the continuation of resolution that it names out how the directives are done. And then there's in there the trustee directive that I've signed, that pending you approving this resolution, will become effective. This is all for 2022. Okay. And then Betty has done the internal controls, which shows all the different positions, who can handle cash, who can't handle cash, who's oversight over this, who does this. And it's if you want to put that up, it's that graph thing, Laura. Just real quick, I'm not gonna go into the whole thing, but just showing you folks what we're talking about. This is how just keep going. Right there it is. So this is the directive of how it all falls out and who does what. And at the top, it says what positions, what the board chairman does, what the trustee does, what the deputy trustee and her assistant do, who can take cash, et cetera. So there's a lot of different checks and balances. And one thing the State Board of Accounts has always praised us on is how we have set this up. So it's the way it's set up, and so I'm asking for approval for this for 2022. Just make sure you get all the different times.
Okay, so just,
Two places to sign.
So there's an A for a list, there's 2 places to sign. This is resolution
So
07 and 08.
it'll still be 7. It's 2 parts. It's 2 parts resolution.
Okay.
Yep.
Because in here it's broken into, okay, never mind. Couple things. One, we'll make some edits on there. This says for the year 2021, so we'll edit that to 2022. Amanda's, we need to change her name spelling. We forgot an N.
Anybody ever spelled Amanda wrong, spelled the last name.
Talk to Brett.
So I'm gonna edit that.
She's not here to defend herself. No.
Okay.
Any other?
So this is all 07.
Yeah, put the oversight committee on that though too. That's part of the resolution.
So discussion on oversight committee, continue as we've done in the past, which is us.
Fine with that.
Okay. There's 4 lines, Don. Is there a reason why there's 4 lines?
I don't, this is how the state lines it out, so.
Okay.
Is everybody good with that?
Yep.
Okay. I will make a motion to approve resolution 121421-07, resolution of the Township Board regarding the system of internal accounting control and designation of an oversight committee.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, my name's spelled wrong.
I didn't type.
She must have been getting sick.
Huh?
She was getting sick. We'll blame it on her.
Yeah.
Off her game.
Oh,
Make sure you guys initial work, you change stuff.
okay. So there's one on the front. Print your name. Sign here. Initial that too, and whatnot. You guys can figure it out. You're ready.
Do you need 3 initials on changes? Or just 1?
All three of you.
All 3 of them?
I'll have to do the same thing when I attest them. While we're doing that, I am by law also required to report to the Oversight Committee, who has been trained on the internal controls of Washington Township for the year 2021. So you are provided with the entire list, and it'll be entered in the minutes who they were. But those are all the individuals, the employees of the township, including myself, who were trained on the internal control process. They went sat through the very interesting and entertaining State Board of Accounts film. It's actually quite boring. And then
Was it on VHS?
Uh,
Was it on VHS?
On tablet.
I mean, if you enjoy somebody reading line by line, which you can read yourself. But anyway, so that was all done, and those folks did pass all that. So I'm certifying to you that that's been done. So that'll be part of the record for this meeting.
So anything I missed, let me know.
Okay, next up is the surplus resolution.
As you know, Chief Smith talked about that they were doing away with the HAZMAT program. So they're asking that the board declare that vehicle and all of the different things that went with it, they're included in that resolution, to be declared surplus so that they can sell the vehicle and either sell or donate the various items that were listed in that Chris Cron provided to us. If any other questions, Chief or Deputy Chief.
Is, not specifically about the piece of equipment, any of the stuff that we're gonna leave on there, is there anything there that has a shelf life that we need to be concerned with if we're gonna leave it on there to
So what we've
give to
done is some
another
of the
department?
equipment that we needed to disperse out to the engines to put on, we've done that. Some of the equipment was given to us by other departments back when we started hazmat, so
But nothing that has a shelf life that we could be held
no,
liable for not disposing of it before we pass it on. Okay, yeah, I saw a lot of no spark equipment, that kind of thing, but I didn't know if
a lot of that was
anything had a
bought
shelf
with
life.
grant money, but it's already surpassed its life requirement for grants, so we can pretty much dispose of it anyway.
I'm just thinking from the liability side of things,
Probably the biggest liability we would have had in that area is phone, when we took care of that last year, spending several thousand to get it remediated.
Okay.
Removed.
The only thing I see that would even be disposable on this list would be N95s and
Just trying to think from the negative side, something that comes, be a nice guy and then something come back to bite us.
And the vehicle, we'll post a sales site for used fire apparatus. Unfortunately, they don't usually, compared to what you spend to build them, they don't bring much money on the used market, but we'll post it probably this week or next, and get it, try to get it sold as quickly as we can.
That's not like used cars.
Any further questions?
No.
Just need a motion to approve.
Second.
No, we just need,
He was still looking through the other stuff, I'll do it.
I'm sorry.
No, he was fixing all of our errors. I will make a motion to approve resolution 121421-09, declaring surplus equipment.
You're right.
you're right.
9.
It's on the agenda, it's 9 on.
It's supposed to be 8.
The last one was 8.
It was 7.
No, oh, you're right.
We pulled that one resolution.
You're right. They were 8.
I
Need to say it all over again.
I'll second it again.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, that was easy enough. So, let's see. What we got.
Next thing on the agenda was, so Britt was gonna do this, but since she's not here, I'll go ahead. In your packet was included by state statute, the 3 township board members individually and the trustee must sign a statement of no nepotism involved in their knowledge. And that we are hiring any of our relatives defined by the nepotism law of the state. And no conflict of interest on contracts and that thing. So the 4 of us have signed those and they are there and they'll be on file and they'll be included in the next audit and for review. So I'm just certifying for the minutes that those have been done and turned in and all before the end of the year, so as we're required. So we've met that requirement.
Okay. Any public comment or wishes to be heard?
One thing that wishes to be heard real quick, and Robert texted me while all this was going on. Do you want to update them real quick on the nine, what you found out about 900?
Sure, it's a interlocal agreement with Hendricks County for County Road 100 North, 900 East, and traveling north about half mile north on 900 East.
Oh, okay.
That's where that,
Great.
Well, the other thing I have and wishes to be heard, just want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and a very, very Happy New Year.
You too, Ron. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. This was a kind of yet another crazy year, back-to-back crazy years, but a lot of stuff got done despite weather and delays and soil stabilization and whatnot like that. So a lot did get done. So good work, everybody. Anything else? All right. If not, we can adjourn at 4:20. Oh, we have to
Yeah,
vote
motion.
too. Sorry.
Oh, I move we
Sorry.
adjourn.
4:25, I will second.
All those in favor?
I
It was 4:26.
Okay.
My error.
just turned over. That's when I said it.